Hi class, this is Mrs. Gallegos. Today you're going to be doing a lab to figure out the energy content of food. In your lab supplies you should have a ring stand, a waste beaker, a 50 milliliter graduated cylinder, an empty Coke can, a thermometer, a glass stirring rod, a wooden splint, plastic ruler, thermometer clamp, lighter, a cork with a needle through it, and your food item, as well as a ring stand and a balance. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to carefully place your food item on the needle. Now you want to be careful not to push too hard because it'll crack the nuts in half. Then I'm going to mass the food item and enter that data in my data table. So the initial mass of the food and holder is 2.9. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a ring stand, a ring on my ring stand. I am going to take my Coke can and I'm going to fill it. I'm going to measure the mass of my empty Coke can on my balance and enter that mass into my data table, and it is 11.5. Then I'm going to put in 50 milliliters of water. You could just get water from the tap. And then I'm going to mass the Coke can again. And the final mass is 55.4. Then I'm going to take my Coke can and I'm going to lift up the tab. I'm going to raise the Coke can just above the ring, and I'm going to slide the glass stirring rod through the ring in the Coke can, so that my Coke can is now suspended, like so. Then I am going to make sure that the Coke can is, how far did it need to be? I'm going to make sure that the Coke can is 2.5 centimeters above the food holder. So I'm going to measure this, and here are my centimeters. So I'm going to adjust. So it looks like it needs to come up just a smidge, down a smidge. So now I can see that my Coke can is 2.5 centimeters above the food. So that's my setup. Make sure your Coke can is secured very tightly. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to set up my temperature clamp, thermometer clamp, and then I'm going to clamp my thermometer in the clamp. So that it is in the can, touching the water, but not touching the aluminum, because I don't want to know the temperature change of the aluminum. I just want to know the temperature change of the water in the thermometer, in the can. And then I tighten my thermometer clamp. And I should turn it so that I can easily read the temperature in the can. Then, as soon as I have this all set up, I'm not going to be pressing click play because we can't use the data loggers for this because the heat was ruining the temperature probes. So I'm going to take my food item out. I'm going to use my wooden splint and my lighter, and I'm going to light the splint on fire. Then for the nuts, it's really important that we get the entire nut inflamed. So I want to go with my wooden splint underneath the nut and make sure that both sides of the nut are burning so that I can get a complete combustion of my nut. And this is a cashew, so I've got one end burning, and I want to hurry up and light the other end. I don't want to have, I don't want to measure the calorie of my wood, so I don't want to put this under the can yet. So in our observations, we'll note that this would be a source of error. So there we go. One of the things I forgot to do was to measure the initial temperature of my water. So I see that it is 22.20 degrees Celsius. So my initial temperature, 22.20. Remember, these thermometers read to the tenths place, so my uncertain digit is in the hundredths place. And if I look, I can see that the temperature is going up rapidly. And so what I want to remember is I want to gently stir my can by rocking it. So you'll assign somebody in the group to be the can rocker, so we can keep that water moving and distributing all the heat equally, so that when I get my final temperature, it'll be the final temperature of all the water. Okay, we've got a nice smoke going here. That cashew's got a lot of stored energy, and that energy now is being transferred over to the water. And so I can't measure the beginning and final temperature of my nut, but I can measure how much heat has been transferred to the nut, to the water from the nut. So that's the beauty of calorimetry. All I need to know is how much heat is absorbed or lost by water, and I know that's the same amount of heat lost by this nut. Or if we were doing the same thing with your hot cubes. Your hot cubes got cooler and they were losing their heat energy to the water. So this water is heating up because of the energy that's in the nut. Now we know that energy can be measured in joules, which is the metric system, or it can be measured in calories, which is the system that we use. If you go to Europe, you'll see the calorie content in food measured in joules, not calories. Alright, so I can see that my nut has stopped burning, but I still see some embers, so I'm going to let it finish completely burning before I take its mass again. So it's still giving off heat. And then what I want to do is I want to record the highest temperature. So now I'm going to look, and I can see that the temperature is 65.1. So I'm going to just wait and see if it changes at all. If it goes down, then I'm going to record 65.1. If it goes up, I'll record that higher temperature. And it is going down. All right, so I'm going to record my final temperature. which is 65.1. Alright, so now I need to, uh-oh, I lost half of my cashew, so I'm going to just put that, I need to know its mass, so I'm going to just put it on top of my cork as best I can. It's still very hot. Actually, I'll just put it on the balance. And make sure your balances are on 0 before you start using them. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that all of my cashew is on the balance. You can see that. Okay. So I have all of my cashew, let's see, on the balance. Where's the balance? There it is. It's on the balance. And I see that the new mass is 1.8. So I record that mass in my data table. And I can see that the nut lost 1.1 grams. So later on, I'll go ahead and calculate, how much energy was lost per gram for each of my food items. So what you need to know is you need to let everything cool off, and once you do, you can dispose of your food item in your waste beaker. Now remember, the needle is very hot, because we know that metals have a very low heat capacity, so they heat up very quickly. And then I cleaned off my food holder. And then I'm going to do the same for my balance. And then the last thing we need to do before we do our second food item is we need to remove the can. So I'm going to raise up the thermometer holder, and I'm going to touch the can to make sure it's cool enough, and I'm going to remove the glass rod, and then you just need to clean the bottom of your can. So get a wet paper towel, and or you don't even need it, like just a dry paper towel, and you want to get off all that black soot for your next run. And now you're ready to repeat the process with another food item. Remember to send somebody up to the front of the room to record your data on the class data table.